Hello, everybody. Week 2 and suffering, right? So what does this mean as you consider a profession within healthcare? So I already work in healthcare. I've been working in healthcare since I was 18, actually. But the last 10 years I've been working in neurology, for those of you who know and those I'm new to. And I do seizure trauma work. So I see a lot of suffering on multiple levels. Seizures can come when someone's suffering from cancer, or when someone's at the end of their life, or say their organs fail, as well as both through those traumatic situations like abuse, motor vehicle accidents, etc. And so I think that has sort of helped understanding suffering and being compassionate through that suffering has really been key. I've seen difficult situations, and none of them are the same, which is, I think, what keeps having you show up and reflect. I think how I cope is to sort of step outside myself when situations get really, really difficult. I'm very good at being super, super logical in those emergent situations, and kind of like pushing the sort of how I feel about a situation, or wanting to sort of scream or run or whatever, or even sometimes cry during the actual procedures that I do. So I can put on a very professional face, and I think that's really important. But I, also realize that, I've practiced that, right? I separate my logical, mechanical efforts, and then sort of push my emotions to the side when needed. I think that's not a bad thing. I think it's a sort of a good thing in healthcare, especially because often we see all kinds of things, some real, some psychogenic, some that manifest from emotion, some that manifest from, like an actual sort of tumor or something specific. And so I think, again, it's just showing up, being professional, and relating a lot of compassion and empathy. So I think one thing that's really hard in healthcare is that often it's tied to sort of money, and the time that's needed with a lot of patients is brushed over. And I think that's probably the hardest part working in healthcare, because I don't often think that we're given time to stretch our emotional capacity, which I think in a case of suffering, or in the end, or even, through the process of trauma, is really, really important. And I think that's sometimes why we have such an increase in working of that mental health burden and, capacity just in general. But working in healthcare, or any healthcare profession, or even non-healthcare profession, I think also having a son with a disability has made me a real advocate for the outside world. I work in schools. I volunteer a lot of my time in the community for special needs. And so I think it's really important to just maybe go into the perspective, you never know what someone else is going through. Suffering can show itself on multiple different levels. And I think that's sort of just something that, acknowledging, accepting, trying to be compassionate and empathetic to individuals can really help with. So I will say my application to the reading this context of different types of naturalism, nihilism, theism, existentialism, whatever it is, I think an individual is entitled to sort of that for themselves, if you will. I think those who are suffering, might come to that and see the light. And if that's what they need to get them through, I think that's completely appropriate and almost beautiful. And then if someone, also goes the other direction and doesn't need faith right before they say goodbye, that's also okay. I think sometimes it can be harder on sort of, families, or the exterior of who's actually in the situation, and who's actually suffering. So I always try to just, accept each and every person, each and every seizure, each and every trauma, each and every medical situation that I come by as one in itself. And I try to listen. I try to not feel rushed in such a money graphic healthcare society. I lead with my heart, really. It helps to be logical at times, because sometimes, I also have to make sure I'm not like unloaded on and take the burden of that. And that's why healthcare can have a high burnout rate. So really sort of having that ability to step aside has been helpful when necessary. I don't run from suffering. There's a couple cases that can be really, really hard. But I think, talking about it has been a really useful tool. Just understanding that, the life we have is precious, and whatever we're given, to kind of take advantage of that. Through my son's situation, through my own cancer journey, you don't always have a choice or a say, and you don't always have to like it, is one thing I've learned. But really just living day by day, finding the light, and treating others with kindness through suffering is, I think, most important. And then just sometimes being there, and no one wants to be alone in the end. And so just sometimes your presence can go a long way in a helping profession. So that's what I've got for this week. I hope you're all having a good one. Bye.